Hello, everyone. This is Zami Eccles-Erwin from FilmFestivalCircuit.com and the assistant director of the Austin After Dark Film Festival. Right now, we are gearing up and are very close to our screening for this summer 2023 session, which is going to be on August 6th at the Austin Film Society Cinema. Very excited about that. And today we are talking with one of our participating screenwriters. Kate Ryan Brewer is the creator and writer behind House of Saturn. Kate, thank you so much for meeting with me today.
Thanks for taking the time.
So let's jump into it. Can we start off? What is House of Saturn about?
So, House of Saturn is a psychological horror about 5 astronauts who are in a training scenario that is very intense. What it started out as when I began writing it was kind of an experiment with just the psychology of grief and what you do with 5 very different personality types in a high pressure situation with grief. But it kind of evolved a lot since then. And it involves a few more nightmarish scenarios, but it's still rooted in psychological horror, I'd say.
That sounds very cool. I love that concept, and I love the idea that you're cutting into that in 5 different characters and seeing the cross section of what that looks like. What inspired this idea? What kind of stories did you have as the backbone for this?
Well, like I said, the whole concept began in my head as an idea of like what would happen if you have 5 very different people who are all of a sudden experiencing the same exact extreme trauma, and what
Mm,
kind of reaction that would engender between characters and also within themselves. But then it evolved when a good friend of mine, who's also a talented filmmaker, Cody Gallo, he posted an image of an astronaut and just said, "Oh, what would your tagline for this made up movie be?" And this was probably maybe 5 or 10 years after I had the original idea, and I had this whole renewed concept about House of Saturn, and I emailed
mm.
him about it, and I said, "Hey, this is my tagline for the movie," and he basically said, "Hey, if you write that movie, we'll see if we can get it made." So I
Wow,
wrote.
awesome. That's so cool. So you had this idea brewing for a while, but then this was kind of the impetus to get the ball rolling, put it in motion.
Exactly. Yeah, it
Okay,
sort of just
very
sat
cool.
for a very long time.
Well, here's something that I'm always curious with screenplay writing, and it differs between people. But when you're writing, especially since this is a psychological movie, you're exploring darker themes. Do you write with sort of an ultimate aesthetic in mind? Do you have the idea of the tone and the visual setting of the film as you write, or do you have just that the screenplay basis and you leave it up to director, whoever would be handling it?
So that's a great question. It differs based on the project. For this one
Okay.
specifically, I felt very close and attached to it in a way that I knew that I wanted to direct it. So I wrote it in a
Okay.
different way.
Very cool.
Um, but I wrote it in the way that it sort of has a very visual language to it. Um, and I knew, since I wanted to be attached to direct, that it was going to have kind of a different feeling to it. So I wrote it with music, I wrote it with like very specific aesthetics involved that I may not necessarily have done if I were just writing it as spec, or, potentially to sell.
Okay. Oh, very cool. I love that. You have the basis for you to just helmet and direct it, which is awesome. Um, I'm kind of interested. What is it like writing 5 distinct personalities? How much can you pull from yourself? How much do you pull from people you know, or how much of it is sheer, thought experiment?
Yeah, that's the funny part. There were some characters who really were very easy to write. I mean, I feel like there's a little bit of me in every little one of the characters, but
Okay.
none of them are actually me. I tend to pull from either people I know, or just even interactions that I might see on the street, or sort of random inspiration to create characters. And for House of Saturn, there are like 2 or 3 characters were very distinct right away, like Christiana, Jackie, and Lexi right away were very distinct characters in my mind. They kind of wrote themselves. And then I really struggled with Thedo and Arnold. Like, that took a lot more time and thought and investment and
Mm,
research, honestly, to actually like get and crack those characters. And you can feel it. And when you're sending scripts for feedback and someone saying like, this character is not fully fleshed out for me. And I'm
Mm,
like, yeah, I know, it's not working for me either. Like still working. So that, yeah,
interesting.
some of them took more time than others.
Well, that's so cool. The human DNA is in all of them. It just sort of spreads a little bit slower for some of the people that you have to research, like you said. Well, and if it's not, revealing too much of your hand, is there some specific things you do to research characters? Do you think of types and you look into people that would fit that, or do you just go hit the park and start people watching?
The park is always my first go-to.
Okay, awesome.
Yeah, I love the park. Honestly, I love pubs for people
Okay,
watching because
totally.
people tend to be a little more unguarded there,
Right, and louder.
especially after a few drinks in.
Right,
But not in a negative way. It's
right.
just you start to get a glimpse of people in a different way. And then after that, it was a lot of looking at history, honestly,
Okay,
and like trying to read up on the history of where these different characters were born, where they originated, and trying to understand culture from that perspective and include that somehow.
okay, very cool. I love that. So a little bit of historical analysis, a little bit of Zola-esque realism. Very cool. Here's something that I've been really interested to ask people for this festival specifically. This is the Austin After Dark Film Festival is not genre specific, but it's theme specific, and I'm kind of interested. People seem to always have a strong reaction to this, but what does the theme of darkness mean to you? It's not necessarily horror, but what is a dark theme in media? Is it important to you? Is it something that you find freedom and comfort?
I think darkness is so important. I joke around with my friends that I'm a bit of a vampire, but like
Okay.
I feel more comfortable in the darkness. I mean, I am pale. That's probably part of it. But I think there's something where we tend to think of things in a very black and white sort of way a
Mm,
lot of the time, and darkness gets a bad rap.
right. Yeah.
But there are elements of darkness in each of us, and again, that doesn't mean it's a bad thing. It's just like it's part of nature. Light is part of nature, the fading, the life, the decay, like it's all just part of our experience. So I think darkness is just a critical part of the human experience, and it is to be embraced and explored in the same way that we do, the light, for
Right.
example.
Okay, I love that. I love that. That's a good answer, and it is cool to think that if we look at the sum total of media, is it maybe more just leaning into the nice stuff, the lightness, and not really creating that full picture of humanity? And so it is very cool to hear about projects like this. Um, I want to know, what did you learn from this process? Any new insights on the craft, and is this the first thing you've written with your intention to direct?
So it's not my first thing I've written with intention to
Okay.
direct, but my first feature was actually a documentary, which I didn't
Okay.
necessarily intend to make a documentary feature as my first feature, but that's the way it
That
happened.
happened.
That's how things turned out. So,
Okay.
and I'm very proud of that. But yeah, I learned so much from it. Mostly that like we're always constantly learning, and if we're not, then
For sure.
we're not paying close enough attention. I
Right.
think it's just yeah, I there are certain things that I grew to feel comfortable in
Mm,
writing House of Saturn. I didn't start with an outline with this one.
okay.
I mostly outline a lot of my scripts, and this one I didn't. So this was one of the first ones where I actually kind of just trusted that I knew enough to figure out the characters and figure out and feel out the plot as it went along. And a lot of it worked, some of it didn't. But yeah, I think trusting instinct to
Mm,
a certain extent is helpful. And also, you're going to get a lot of really helpful feedback. I think from people, especially who know the genre. But I also learned that it's a really tricky and uh, thing to learn to take the advice that people are
mm,
giving, knowing what the issue is, but then coming up with your own solution for it so that you kind of stay
okay.
true to the movie that you're making. Because naturally, everyone is going to have an instinct of what they want to see, right? So,
Right.
at the end of the day, what do you want to see? And how are you going to fix the problems in the way that you want to see them fixed? I think was a big learning curve for
Totally.
me.
Well, that's great advice because people are going to come by and say, "Oh, what if this character did this?" But there's something even deeper in their essence of what they're saying. There's a lack, and so you're just saying you're supplying your own ideas with whatever that is. Very cool.
Yeah,
And I
but
also love the idea that you jump into it, like you said, you just dug in without an outline. You trusted your instinct, and there's always the process of, like you said, revision that can help you finish that. But sorry, were you about to say something?
oh, no, I was probably just repeating something I said before.
Well, thank you for sharing that insight. And I'm curious, what is next for you? Obviously, you said that the ball is rolling on this to get it made.
Mhm.
What's that process looking like right now?
So it's actually really exciting because we're actually part of a fellowship called Story and Code,
Okay.
and it pairs like software and firmware engineers with storytellers and filmmakers. And what we're doing is creating an interactive teaser trailer, which is
Oh,
ironic because it's before the movie's even made, right?
right.
Which is sort of backwards, but it's using an element of the script, which is the idea that there's a psychological baseline that's
Mm,
driven by AI in order to sort of like make sure the characters in the story, the astronauts, are, you know, like psychologically healthy and
okay.
sound. And so we've sort of, we're working on reverse engineering that baseline test for people to experience themselves.
Oh, whoa.
So, like, we're building out these different parts of the world basically for fun because we because we really enjoy it. But yeah, like the story and code is going to provide a unique experience to be able to kind of for people to go through this baseline test that the characters do in the film. And we've also got a short film that's kind of part of the history of the world of
Mm,
House of Saturn that's coming along as well. So, like I said, it's a lot of world building at this point, but it's I don't know, it's just because 'cause we're having a lot of fun with it, and I
that's awesome.
enjoy being in this space.
Totally. So that's so cool. But basically, you're creating more than just the film. It's going to be a multimedia kind of engrossed experience.
That's the idea, yeah.
Okay, that's so cool. Well, then I feel like there's going to be more than just one film. At this point, there's going to be a whole series potentially.
Well, who knows? There will at least be a baseline test that you can experience for yourself and, interesting, kind of weird La Jetée style,
Oh, very cool.
backstory short, so
Okay, awesome. Well, is there anything else you'd like to add about House of Saturn?
I I just that I hope people enjoy getting weird,
Mm,
honestly, and, embrace the weirdness. I think with this one, I also learned that, you're not gonna please everyone with everything.
right.
So, what is it you wanna see? Write that.
I love that. Great advice. Well, Kate, thank you so much for talking with me today. I'm very excited to see the different elements of this project come to light. I'll definitely be following along, and hopefully, we will be able to screen this at a festival one day.
That would be my pleasure and honor.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, and take care.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye.